25-4. Safety improvements will be introduced to stretches of smart motorway after a series of fatal crashes. It was announced last night. More emergency laybys, extra warning signs and redesigned slip roads will be introduced on parts of the M1 and the M6 after concerns were raised over the safety of the scheme. The conclusions were made in a report by National Highways on one section of the M6 near Birmingham and 3 sections of the M1 near Luton, Sheffield and Wakefield. It said that 14 fatal collisions have been reported on those stretches since they were converted into smart motorways without a permanent hard shoulder. Will these new moves make things safer? Let's speak with Claire Mercer. Claire is the widow of Jason Mercer, who was killed on a smart motorway. Claire, good afternoon to you.
Hello.
Just explain for those who don't know what happened with Jason.
He had a minor collision on the M1, one of the black spots you've just mentioned. It was just a minor collision, but they were at a sign that said no hard shoulder for 4 miles. 2 years ago, we knew less about smart motorways than we do now. So they didn't know what to do. They couldn't see an emergency refuge area. There was no hard shoulder. There was a sign saying no hard shoulder for 4 miles. The cameras show them going further along, trying to find a safer place to stop, but they couldn't.
Wow.
They couldn't get right out of the running lane because of the crash barrier, and they couldn't get over the crash barrier because of a 30-foot drop onto the slip road below. So there was just absolutely no backup, no allowance for any other contingency.
Yeah.
So, and they were there swapping details, and a lorry ploughed into them because the signs weren't changed. The technology that 1 doesn't exist and 2 doesn't work wasn't there, and it didn't even pick up when they were broken and scattered across 4 lanes.
So this automated, digital, incredible technology that's meant to spot all of this without anybody even having to think about it. It's meant to all kick in, big red crosses, things light up. None of that happened.
Not even when they were dead, not even when it was too late. It took members of the public phoning in and saying, for the love of God, close the motorway. And then, of course, the emergency services couldn't get through. They tried to land the helicopter, but by the time the helicopter got anywhere near, they were told it was too late. They were killed at 8:15 in the morning, and at 6:30 at night, their bodies were still on the road, and the road was still closed because they couldn't get the coroner through. They couldn't get the undertaker through to remove the bodies. This is just the things that, my husband didn't pass away. He was absolutely smashed to bits on the road and then left there for 9 hours.
My goodness.
It's not just that they were killed in an absolutely horrific manner.
Yeah.
And then, all the way along, we're told that this technology should have done this and should have done that. And half of it isn't there. The technology, the SVD, stationary vehicle detection, isn't even installed on 85% of smart motorways. And the MIDAS system doesn't work. When I asked why MIDAS didn't even pick him up, I was told he died between 2 loops. So Jason's fault. Jason died in the wrong place. So,
was anybody in trouble for this afterwards? Was there seen to be
a driver was arrested and convicted, but he was made a scapegoat, as with all the other cases.
Yeah.
He was made a scapegoat.
But so there was nobody from the local authority or from the Highways England that was in trouble over.
Local authority anyway, but it would have been
True.
Highways England, and we have now pushed, and now South Yorkshire Police are investigating for corporate manslaughter. Because I've worked in manufacturing and industry all my life, and I've always been told, you can't do that. My last boss used to say to me, you can't do that. If it hurts you, I get arrested. So why can we kill all these people on the roads, but nobody takes responsibility for it? But now we've at least got South Yorkshire Police investigating corporate manslaughter. We just need Derbyshire Police, Nottinghamshire Police, Essex Police.
Do these new measures begin to address the problem?
No, not in the slightest. My husband died for absolutely no reason. That was known as a black spot before Jason was killed, and it is known as a black. And he was killed over 2 years ago now, and it's still a known black spot. So now we're thinking about possibly considering a few extra bits and pieces here. We need the hard shoulder back in every single instance. That's the only thing that will work. The technology, the latest news from a couple of weekends ago, the gantry, the software that controls the gantry. It's software. It will always rely on your internet connection and your firewall. It's just like your internet connection at home. And they proved that stops working for days on end. They can't control the signs in a whole massive corner of the country for days on end. So, and then we've got the fact that the gantries don't pick up, the technology doesn't pick up the equipment anyway. And it's just, we need a hard shoulder. The hard shoulder doesn't depend on your internet connection, your firewall, the gantry working, operators understanding what they need to do, not having 48 other jobs they've got to do in 10 seconds. We just need the hard shoulder back in every single instance. And so I'm not going to stop fighting until we have.
And good for you, Claire. I understand why you would. And are you, I mean, every time somebody like yourself, we've spoken before, and I speak to other people in this very situation, they ask for the same thing, but I'm not hearing anything. I've never heard Grant Shapps say we're putting the hard shoulders back.
No, I mean, we all band together. There's a lot of us. We all know each other. I know Sally Jacobs very well. You've spoken to Sally Jacobs. Her husband was killed round here. You know, I'm in touch with Alexandra's sister. She's given up and gone back to Romania. She's so broken by what happened. She's given up and gone back to Romania and had to explain to her parents why her brother's not with her. And you know, it just absolutely smashes your life to pieces. And we're not going to get apathy. We're not going to get exhausted and give up and go away. We're pushing for more legal action. The longer they leave this, the longer they keep procrastinating, the more legal action I am adding to the battery. And we are going to. I'm arranging a protest today. I've just given up after the release of this report. I have not wanted to engage about a protest, but protests are going to start now. I've been pushed for it by the supporters on our campaign pages for months, and as much as I hated it, I didn't engage because I didn't want to start down that street. I felt it was dangerous, you know, motorways and a pandemic, but we're just being ignored and people are dying all the time. So we're going to have to take direct action. I
hear it. Claire, keep campaigning. Thank you. I hear everything you say. Claire Mercer, widow of Jason Mercer, was killed on a smart motorway. That's not just very understandable, passionate stuff from Claire. It was incredibly informed as well. I've always had a view that smart motorways are a great idea if everything works as it should do. But the if is so massive and in fact potentially lethal in this equation. If all of the factors come together, the lanes close, the cameras go on, and here's the even more crucial bit, if all the drivers do what they're told. So let's assume the big red X does come on. How often have you driven up the motorway and the red X is on and it's still full of traffic? It's completely ignored. Oh, we'll move over in a bit.